Good afternoon, freshmen. I'm coming to you today on a screencast, trying to get information out to you as we start the scheduling process for next year. Next year, we're looking forward to that quite a bit. Next year will be a year that hopefully you're not wearing masks anymore. You won't be the youngest ones in school. A lot of the good things come with next year that are a little bit of an upgrade from this year. We're hoping and thinking. So I know I'm going to go over some things about scheduling. We're picking our classes for next year. Don't panic. We are picking our classes for next year, but it's not like we have to have them all picked today. There is a scheduling window for you to enter your classes for next year, your course request into Skyward, and that window is 8 days long. So you have until the 26th, till 3 o'clock on the 26th. I actually have this schedule for scheduling, for lack of better wording, right here. And this is just a window where scheduling opens, so you can start entering your information for next year. You could start and finish today if you wanted, but you have all the way until you have an 8-day window until the following Tuesday to get that whole situation knocked off, in case you have questions, in case there are things you're not clear of. And that's kind of my job today, is take a few things that people may not be clear of and hopefully clarify those things a little bit so we can make the choices intelligently. We know that scheduling is not an easy process actually for you guys, because being a small school, being on trimesters and some other reasons, there's no guarantee you're going to get everything you pick. So you're picking your best wish list, knowing that if you pick 15 half credits, you're probably going to get 14 or 13 of those to land. A couple things will run into each other and you have to pick an alternate. That's pretty normal. So, but the more thoughtful you pick them on the front end, the more chances you have of your things to work out. So we're gonna run with that. And by the end of next Tuesday, you do have to have the schedule full. 7.5 full credits with no study halls is the rule for sophomores, just like for freshmen. So with that, if you guys want to, you can be opening your Chromebooks as I'm talking. I'm not insulted by that. I don't think your homeroom teacher is going to yell at you for that. So while I'm talking, you can open the Chromebooks, and I'm going to let you know right off the bat that a lot of the information you need is going to be right here in Classroom. I'm just not even changing the 2024 Classroom. I'm not even changing what was in it from when you guys did your mock schedule on Zello. I shouldn't say mock schedule, but your practice scheduling and such. The only thing is one link won't matter. You won't have to log into Zello. These other 6 will still be worthwhile. These other 6, as you're looking at your classes for next year, first of all, I had the schedule for scheduling up already. That's probably number one. The other thing is there's a course offering sheet, just a single one-page sheet. If you find that easier to look at something physical and mark up your schedule first physically and then go in and put it into Skyward when you're ready, that's fine too. The physical sheet is pretty easy to navigate. You've seen it before. I think you've seen it last year if you remember it. Looks like this, has all the classes that go in every single area for all the years. That's a lot of people like to do it that way. So just for a couple quick notes, I'm going to go over some notes that I think current freshmen need to know as they're looking forward to next year. And one that you don't have to know as much as graduation requirements, because we're making you take every class without a study hall at this point. So you have to fill it up anyway. We are going to put in, if we do open up graduation requirements, we're going to pre-schedule math and science. We're going to pre-schedule math and a science credit. There's a reason for that. The reason we're pre-scheduling math and science, as we look at this, your math and science credit, everyone's got to take biology. That's a school board requirement. You have to take biology. There is no choice on that. And everyone's got to take 3 credits of math, 1 in each of the freshman, sophomore, and junior years. The math will be preloaded into your Skyward. Math is already there from the math teachers. If you have a big dispute with what the math teachers have put in, then you and your parents have to go through the math teachers and then mirror the principal, but go to the math teachers first, because the math is placement for the first 3 years. So your math is in, biology's in, so 2 credits are in. You're going to end up with 7.5 credits when you're done, just like this year. So 5.5 you have to put in yourself. Going back to the resources that we have for you, we already touched graduation requirements. We touched on the math sequence. If you want to see that, it's here. What comes before what and what comes after what. That's a decent little resource. Basically, for you guys, if you're sitting currently in geometry, you'd be moving up into algebra 2 would be the normal sequence. If you're in fundamental geometry, you'd be going to algebra 1B. If you're in algebra 2 already, you'd be looking at pre-calc for next. You'd be looking at pre-calc, but I don't think that's the case with anyone here. So those are actually that's just a sophomore litany that I just gave you. So cancel that last 18 seconds. If you're in algebra 1 right now, you'll be going up into geometry. If you're in algebra 1A, you'll be sliding up into fundamental geometry. And if you're in geometry right now, you'll be sliding up into algebra 2. And that stuff is all right here. You click the button that says math sequence, and it's all right here, and it tells you where you should be going. And you shouldn't even have to know it because your teacher will have you put in those things already. So your math is in, your biology is in. You will have to put in some classes. You have to put in a social studies class for your sophomore year. You have to take at least a half a credit of government. It gets a little bit interesting. So it gets a little bit interesting with social studies because the half credit government class has been the normal class for years and years and years. And that's our requirement at Brilliant is you have to take a half credit of government your sophomore year. There is an option. There's an option to take a class called AP Government that runs 1 credit, that runs 2 different trimesters. I'll talk a little bit more about AP and something called weighted, which may matter as you make your choices later. The great majority of people, when they choose between those two, this year I think 87 people took government and 3 took AP that were sophomores. I do know from the wording, and you see me glance down, I have a couple notes here. The wording from the teachers who actually teach the class, Mr. Hoppy and Mr. Slender, they recommend for social studies, the best option is to take government as a sophomore and AP as a junior or senior if you have the interest. Again, I'm going to get into some reasons. There will be a few of you that are going to want to take AP. I would think after I talk about that. But anyway, you have to take some government to make it up to 2.5 credits at minimum. Maybe that'll be 3. And you have to take an English class, and you have 2 choices on that. So you're going to have 3.5 credits that are set in stone. Maybe 4 if you take the harder government class, and then you have to fill up with electives with what you wish, going up the whole ladder to get to 7.5. So again, heading back to the classroom, anything that I didn't show yet, this Zello login, you don't have to go into Zello at all during the 6 days. We've got the schedule for scheduling. You saw the course offering sheet. I'll revisit that a bit. Graduation requirements. Getting to your schedule on Skyward is probably the last thing to touch. But one thing that was worth noting is we can help you anytime in this next week and a half. Your homeroom teacher can help you. I can help you. But don't be afraid to click this link here. It doesn't turn up as a title when we put it in the classroom like this. But this is the link with all the course descriptions of every single class that Brilliant has to offer. So this is nice because these course descriptions will tell you the prerequisites, will tell you any of the nuances of the class, tell you anything you need to know. It'll tell you if it's a half credit or full credit, what grades it's available for. But it gives a course description written by the teacher of the class. So if somebody's going to ask me, hey, what do they do in horticulture? I can give a pretty good answer. Your homeroom teacher can give you a decent answer, but this is Miss Cundy's answer. And I would say the teacher who teaches the course every single day probably has a little bit better of a description than we would off the top of our head. So this might be the first place you want to look to say, hey, what do they do in this class? What do they do in that class? I'm thinking about going into business. What do they do in marketing? Well, you go in here and you find out exactly what Miss Bushman says they do in marketing, and then you know. This is a great, I think this is as good as any. There's that course offering sheet with all the courses. The course descriptions are right here. It's neat and it's organized. If you want to go right to the area you want to look at, hey, what do they have for computer classes? Click computer science, boom, it's there. Hey, what do they have for art classes? Click art, and boom, it's right there. So everything is right there in front of you if you want it to be. And we'll getting to your schedule on Skyward. At the end, I'll hit it, getting to your schedule on Skyward. So, all right. So anyway, and we can also have copies of these course offering one-page sheets, so you can mark them up if you want. That's our plan, is to have copies of those for you. So some quick notes. Schedule thoughtfully. What happens is some of these classes that we offer right now may not run for next year. So if you just kind of slop and put things in and don't really care that much about what you're doing in this next 8 days, changing later sometimes has some pain in that, okay, only 8 people signed up for CAD. Mr. Kittle says we can't run a class with 8 people, so we cut it. And then 2 people come back and say, oh, I was going to take that. Well, oh, I was gonna is too late then. So you don't want to schedule thoughtfully, because the more you put in there, the more numbers that go into a certain class, the more likely it is to run. If they get even more, if 30 people sign up for CAD, then you might have 2 sections of it, which is nice, because if it doesn't fit in this hour in your schedule, you can put it in this hour and get it there somehow, some way. So schedule thoughtfully. You'll need to schedule with your Skyward login. That's important. Every year we battle this a little bit. Oh, I always use my parents' Skyward. Doesn't matter. You have to schedule on Skyward up to 7.5 credits with your Skyward password. Your parents won't work. If you use your parents' username and password login, and you've done it forever, even through grade checks and all that, it's time to get your own. And the way to do that would be go down to Mrs. Fisher in the main office, and she can reset your password. If you don't know it, never had it, anything like that, she can reset it for you. Again, you don't have to do it right this second, but everything's got to be in 8 days. So if you don't have your own Skyward password, get one. As simple as that. So, okay. So, and you go into Skyward the same way you're going for your grade checks, and you've been doing it for, all year, and you did it in 8th grade as well. You've gotten into your own Skyward, so I shouldn't have to tell you how to get there. Do not just Google Skyward at the top of your browser, because there's a gazillion schools that have Skyward. You might end up in Melbourne, Australia, if you just Google Skyward. So you want to go into your own Skyward that you do for grade check. So, okay, a few other things. I got to move a little bit faster. I don't want to take up all your time, and maybe I've come close to that already. Required classes are going to be preloaded for you guys. That's going to be two credits are preloaded. You'd also need government, and you need English in there. So it's going to be 3.5. You need a full credit of English, half credit of government at minimum. Okay, social studies we talked about a little bit. Is when you're looking at social studies, I'm going subject by subject now. Social studies, your choice is American Government or AP American Government. Now, what does AP mean? AP stands for Advanced Placement. What that means is that if you take the AP course, at the end of the year, they have a test. It's a pretty big test. It's about 2.5, 3 hours. It's the same test for the whole country. And you take that big test. If you score high enough, there's a great chance that you'll get college credit at the college you go to in the future. I say great chance, it's not a guarantee. I'd say about 80, 85% of the colleges universities out there give meaningful credit for your AP classes. Some will just give elective credit, which, when you go to college, you could have taken badminton or a chorus or something like that. And gotten the same amount of credit if they just give you elective. But 80 to 85% are going to knock off a social studies credit for you, social studies class for you. In a great situation, they might even knock off 2, but usually just 1 social studies class. But that's the deal. It's a chance to get college credit from the stuff you did in high school. It's also what's called a weighted class. And some of you might be saying, what does that mean, weighted? So I'm going to explain that a little bit. If we go into the course offerings here, anything listed with an asterisk here next to the name is weighted. So as far as weighted classes for us, as we look at this, social studies, AP government has this little asterisk here. That means it's weighted. What that means is when you take the class, when they determine class rank in high school, say there's 80 people in the current freshman class, and you are right in the middle, you're 40th right now. If you take a weighted class, they give you 1 more point for that class on your grade point. So it helps your rank a little bit if you get a good grade. So in other words, normally an A is 4 points. As you were looking at grade point average and things like that, normally an A counts for 4 points. With a weighted class, an A will count for 5 points. A B will count for 4 points on that weighted scale. So when we determine class rank, when we determine some of the high awards at the end, like valedictorian and things like that, we'll use the weighted rank. On your record, they actually have both. They have a weighted rank and they have an unweighted rank. So when you get your record of what they call your transcript, your record of you forever in school, it'll be a rank where that class just gets 3 points for a B, and a different rank where it gets 4 and you pass some people up. We do it both ways because colleges need it. Colleges need it without weights sometimes, but we give weights internally. So if one person takes clothing and one person takes AP government, the A in government gets a little bit more of a bump. So that's what weighted means. So hopefully that made sense. Okay, so that's social studies. As we want the English options, English, you're going to have 2 options. You're going to have pre-AP English, which you would have to put in, and you're going to have regular English, English 10. You have to put in one or the other. And this is where I'm going to get into the part where, as you go into Skyward, if you see a class is 1 credit, like most of the math classes are 1 credit will mean that you have to it will have 2 numbers in Skyward. And you have to put both those numbers into your schedule to make it into a credit, make it into a full credit. There's a lot of classes that are a half credit. You look over here by ag, intro to agriculture, sustainable ag, they're all half credit. Every half credit is 1 number. Okay, so art, which is a full credit, will have 2 numbers. It might have, off the top of my head, I'm thinking it's like 686 and 687. To take the full year of art, you've got to put both numbers in your schedule. Same thing with English. To take pre-AP English, you got to put both numbers on pre-AP English. One number's for one trimester, one's for the other. English 10, you put both numbers in there. Okay, so anything that's 1 credit, you put 2 numbers in there. Every half credit is a number. Okay, the only place that gets really wonky is with band and chorus, because with band and chorus, they go all year long. You can actually have 3 trimesters of it. So because you can have 3 trimesters, you'd put 3 numbers if you want it the whole time long. So class that are 2 trimesters is 2 numbers, 1 trimester is 1, band and chorus is 3. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Pre-AP is not weighted. Pre-AP English is just a little bit more rigorous, trying to get you more ready for the tougher English classes if you're going to take AP English down the road. That's pre-AP English, that's social studies. A quick note on science, everyone's got biology. If you care to, you can take chem as well. That's the most rigorous route humanly possible in science. Generally, maybe the top 15 students in a grade who are sophomores end up taking chemistry as well as biology. It's available. That's what I'll say with that. You have to take biology. Chem is a choice. As far as FIED goes, FIED is what's called a year independent requirement in Zello. If you saw it on the bottom there, FIED and personal finance are year independent requirements. What that means is FIED is a requirement, but you don't have to take it right now. Okay, so FIED, you've got to take 3 times in your life. You've taken it freshman year. You've got to take it 2 of the last 3 years. Doesn't matter which years. You can take it all 3, but you have to take it at least 2. You can't take 2 of them in the same year. You can only take 1 a year. You can take a year off if you want. And the final note on FIED is if you want to take something called Unified FIED, which is a pretty cool class, it mixes some of the special needs students with what they call more mainstream students, and you get to help out in that capacity. You kind of partner up. Unified FIED is pretty cool. You do need to get an app, and you get that from Mrs. Kohler because not everyone gets in. There is an application process to get into that class. So, okay, so that's FIED, that's science, that's English, that's social studies. Personal finance, I didn't mention personal finance, year independent requirement. You've got to take it sometime in your high school life. End of story there. So you got to take it sophomore through senior year, and then you'll be good. So, okay, as we said, half credit classes, 1 number. 2 trimester classes, 2 numbers, band and chorus, 3 numbers. Make sure you get up to 7.5. If you have a failed class and you know it already, you might as well put it in for your next year if you're not going to go to summer school. If you've failed more than one, figure one for summer school and put one back into your schedule. Because you got to make it up if it's required class and you failed the freshman year. Hopefully that didn't happen too much. So, okay, as far as getting to your schedule on Skyward, the last part, getting to your schedule on Skyward, and some of you might have already gotten there. It's not that hard. You've been there before. But there's a little cheat sheet for you here on getting to it. It may be a tiny bit off if Skyward changed their picture, their screen from year to year a tiny bit, but it's going to be almost identical to this. Getting to your schedule on Skyward is that you go into your Skyward, and on the left-hand side, it will say schedule. You got to click schedule, and near the top, it's going to say request courses for 2021. Actually, it's going to say request courses for 21-22 now. And that's gonna be how you get to your schedule on Skyward. You click that, and then on one side is going to be your actual schedule, which is going to start out with just your math and biology loaded in, and the other side is going to be your choices. You're going to have to double click those or click and arrow them and get them into your schedule, and you've got 8 days to do that. So again, you've got a lot of time to ask questions, a lot of time to ask questions of your homeroom teacher, myself, look up the course directions, talk to your parents. We've got 8 days, but in 8 days, it's got to be fully in with 7.0